anymore, pretty much everything is sold with lifetime maps.
Really?
There's a few. I think you can still get them. Not.
Yes, we have. Thank you for all your help that you've been giving me. I appreciate that.
Well, that's the only reason you're sure change your mind.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I don't think so. Early on certain I do want to because all I want to do is make sure. I want to take her.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah, because we have some of them. But anybody can use it. Minute 2 or 3. Oh yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna turn the video on. I haven't heard from Lee.
I haven't heard from him, and I didn't think to check.
I think a week or so ago, since I've seen him. Rock and roll.
Yeah, there is a green thing. That's supposed to mean that it's recording.
All right, 7 o'clock. We'll call Gardner Electric Advisory Board meeting to order for Thursday, April 3rd. First order of business is pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining with that. First order of business is consideration and passage of the consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda tonight, that being the approval of minutes for the meeting on March 6th. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mark, second by Randy, to approve the consent agenda as supplied. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. First item of new business tonight. Discuss year-to-date budget through February 2014. Mr. Crotcher.
You should have received in your packet an update on the status of the 2014 budget through the end of February. That's 17% of the year elapsed. The good news is our revenue is straightening out some. If you look at your handout, that we're 2.4 million through the end of February, and we're right at 17%. We're actually running almost $250,000 ahead of this time last year because we had the mild winter. So revenue may be coming back. From an expense standpoint, staff continues to control expenses pretty well. Administration is at 7%, generation at 12%, distribution at 8%, and the average for all is 11% through the end of February versus 17% on the revenue. At this point, that's about all I can tell you. Things are turning around, and I think hopefully we have just a normal summer. Revenue will be for the year will be good, and staff will continue to monitor that and control expenses. Questions for anybody?
February, the cold weather probably gives us a shot in the arm.
Yes.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, we will move on to new business item number 2, update on William Fish Technical Service Agreement.
If you recall, William Fish, or Bill Fish, he He's a consultant that we hired back in the fall to assist us with some control issues that we had with the 2 combustion turbine generators. Mr. Fish is an expert when it comes to our turbines. He actually was working for Pons and Lucier when the turbines were installed. So he has hands-on knowledge and experience of our turbines. He did a great job of assisting us in repairing, actually in finding some problems in repairing the control issues that we had with the turbines. Through this year, there's some additional things that need to be done, and I've been trying to work on some kind of a simple scope of services type agreement that we could have with Mr. Fish. He could provide us support in a couple of ways. He could do it by phone. He actually lives and works in upstate New York, so he could do it by phone. He could do it by computer, and he and I have been talking about an hourly rate that he would charge us to do that kind of stuff. Obviously, the last thing that we would want to have to do is bring him down here because we end up paying his expenses and that kind of thing. So I just kind of wanted the board to know that I continue to talk to Bill in putting something together that, in the way of a scope of services letter or simple agreement that will kind of establish him as bound to us, a retainer of some kind for the rest of this year. Hopefully I'll have that done soon.
Any idea on the anticipated cost, or are we going to put a max cap on?
That's what I was going to ask, if we're going to have like a not to exceed or something.
Well, we're gonna pay him by the hour for his services, and I'm trying to remember what his hourly rate was. I think. Because I've been working on some. It's $200 an hour is what his rate is.
Does he have minimums, Bill?
As far, Randy, as...
So we have a 2-hour project that we need to call him about, but he's going to charge us for 4.
Oh, no. We didn't talk about that at all, Randy. No, it's an hour for hour type support. He was wanting to get a monthly, wanted us to pay a monthly fee for just to have him available.
A retainer?
Like a retainer, and I said no. You do a great job, and we appreciate your support, and we will pay you fairly for the time that you commit to us. But we're not going to pay him for a retainer or just to be available.
How does that $200? I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the dollar amount, the rate of pay, but how does that compare to his expertise and what the market dictates?
Well, his expertise is probably as good as anybody's.
It's pretty normal for that.
Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty typical.
For the economic side of
There's
things.
only a handful, dozen people maybe that have the experience he has over the years.
That's exactly right.
It's a small pool.
Okay, fair enough.
So seems reasonable for that.
So I'll keep you posted.
And what kind of work, is it software that you need him to tweak on? Or?
He helped us with the software back last fall, and he helped us with the Black Start issue, Lance, and what we're talking about doing is changing our fuel regulation. From where we are now. We had each unit has a fuel regulator, and going to something electronic.
Okay. So staff would install it, and then he could configure it.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions about Mr. Fish?
No, thank you for the explanation.
All right. Nothing further. We'll move on to new business item number 3. Update on Black Hills Energy Technical Services.
The Black Hills Energy Technical Services Agreement is very similar to the Bill Fish situation from the standpoint, we rely on Black Hills Energy to provide us monthly services on our high pressure gas line. At the present time, and for the last couple of years, they've been providing those services without an agreement. And the kind of things that they do for us that are required by the federal pipeline safety criteria is they do monthly order checks to make sure that the gas stinks, you know, to the proper level. They twice a year they check for leaks. They drive the whole route. They've got a contraption that they mounted on a four-wheeler, like it's like a sniffer, and they drive the whole length of the gas pipeline, which extends clear south of the interstate. And they check for leaks. They do that twice a year, and then they check. They test for our anodes to make sure their anodes are still good. They do that twice a year. They gave me a very lengthy technical services agreement to review. The annual cost of all of this is about $5,000, so it's not a lot of money. And I had a conversation with the city administrator, and she suggested, and I agree with her, that we really don't need this long agreement. Couldn't we get another, like a simple scope of services type letter or agreement, you know, 1 or 2 page max that we could agree on? You know, these are the services they'll provide, and this is how much they're going to charge us for it, kind of thing. The difference being, I guess, for them is they're talking about a high pressure gas line, so they're trying to kind of cover themselves from a liability standpoint.
So they're the ones that came to us wanting to create an agreement, or did we go to them?
They came to us. They said, hey, we've been doing these services for you without an agreement. We want an agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually did that late in the year, just before Darren left.
So
Darren was talking to him.
would it be possible to get a 1-page, 2-page scope of service that's just what they do and talks about the dollars, and then they could add on an addendum or whatever that's, here's the 50 pages of liability CYA that this company wants, and we can let the city attorney review it and see if we can agree to it?
Yeah, we could do that.
So all we really care about is I mean, they're doing that to protect themselves.
Absolutely.
It really doesn't affect what we are going to require from them from a service standpoint.
Well, just this afternoon, Mark, they sent me late this afternoon the first draft of what they call a limited services agreement. And I haven't had an opportunity to sit down and review it in detail. And the first part of it, for the most part, is pretty straightforward. Scope of services, cost, that kind of thing. But then they get into indemnification and some of those kind of things. And I understand that. So I'm probably going to have the city attorney even review this one.
And what are our requirements for certification of liability, or COI? I mean, do we have to make sure that they're covered?
Their insurance, you mean?
Right. Like they carry, you know, $1 million of liability or $10 million for property.
I don't think I've ever done that. We've never done that.
Because I mean, they want to, you know, as Mark said, they want to cover themselves, but we also need to be covered of any negligence that they might. And that's where that'd
be a two-way street there.
Yeah.
That's what normally they have, indemnification
Right.
both ways.
Yeah.
Right. Once one throws out that phrase, you both go that.
No, absolutely, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So anyway, again, that one's pending. I'm working on it. I've been waiting for this simple 2-page thing now for probably almost a month. Initially, Jerry Watkins is your name, and I don't know if any of you know Jerry Watkins for Black Hills Energy. Initially, he said no, and then he finally came around and said, well, let me talk to my legal people and see if they would, you know, they could put something together for me, and I'm assuming this is a result of that. So.
Are we still getting services in the meantime?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. All right.
We are. So I'll keep you posted. I just kind of wanted to update you on this item and the Bill Fish thing, so you know what's going on.
Yeah, I suppose in summary, as long as they continue to provide the services that we need, our impetus and inclination to sign their agreement is a bit minimized.
It is.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you
Without
can,
a drop dead date, it's.
Yeah.
and you can sign that bill based on our $10,000 cap.
Yes.
So that'd be a fairly quick turnaround.
It just seemed kind of silly to burden the council with something that only is going to cost us $5,000-6,000.
No, I agree.
So we're trying to keep this thing simple.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could find the details in the notes from our meeting and.
Well, yeah, it sounds like Black Hills, somebody in the legal department just said we just need to CYA better this year, and as they did that, here all documents will be this, even if it's under, $5,000 that is pennies. It's not about the money there, it's the liability.
It's
It's what it
liability.
sounds like.
And for that $5,000, they had like a 10-page contract that they wanted us to consider.
Probably cost them that in legal fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Anything further on that item? Hearing no further questions or comments from the board, we'll move on to new business item number 4, 2015 budget stats.
I wanted the board to know that staff has been working on the 2015 budget. The city has changed their budget process this year. We were required to have our budget submitted by April 1, and we met that deadline. It's a little piecemeal now. We've had Greg Wilson develop our revenue projections and our gas projections and energy needs and things. And then staff, Brandon and I and the rest of our staff sat down and developed our expenses and our capital items, and as of yet they're not pulled together. We've submitted them to finance, and I have a meeting next Wednesday, I believe, to sit down for the first look at the entire budget. So I just kind of wanted the board to know that we, normally the deadline has been July 1, and it became April 1 this year. So we've been working really, really hard on pulling that together.
That meeting then next week, is that with the city administrator?
Yes. And well, I think probably what we need to do is at some point in time get the numbers to you, to some idea of what we're looking at in the way of capital improvement projects, and those kind of things. It's a little premature to do that tonight because nothing's settled. Questions
Questions from the board?
Speak now.
I don't have a question. I dislike that greatly. I mean, there was no opportunity for input as to what projects should be done in what order. So, sure, yeah, we get the information later, but it's after the fact. It's kind of irrelevant.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the method that the city's using this year is called priority-based budgeting.
Isn't that what they used last year? At least that's what they called it.
Yeah, truthfully, I don't remember, Mark. This is the first year in the last 5 years that we've not been able to sit down and see the entire budget in one piece. So, and the advantage to that for staff is that if our capital improvement projects that we project for, say, 2015 and our expenses exceed our revenue projections, then we can go through and take a look at what we can eliminate or what we could delay in order to end up with a balanced budget. At this point in time, I can't tell you where we are because the pieces are.
So you gotta look at the financial budget and then prioritize.
Yeah, well, we got projections from Greg, and we've got our expenses. We don't have transfers from finance department yet for our debits, and so. But I'll see it, I guess, next I think Wednesday for the first time, and I'll have a better feel.
So looking ahead, do we need to schedule a special meeting to get ahead of that? Or I shouldn't say ahead of it, but to get in line with that based on Bill's unfortunate early retirement, or how do we handle that, just looking forward?
Early's not the right word. But that's okay. Yeah, we can do that. Let's see how the meeting goes next week, and it might be appropriate. See, that meeting is like the 9th, I think. So we've got a couple 3 weeks before I leave after that, and it might be appropriate for us to have a special meeting just for the budget, just to talk about the budget. So you're plugged into what's going on.
Well, more importantly, despite the wrong word being used, I think it just behooves us, in keeping track, that we get Bill's input before he departs. I mean, at the end of the day, he's our content expert, and we can spitball and second guess and make recommendations, but I think Bill's input is, just as high of a rank as anything else.
So I'll work with to kind of bring that to closure. I'll have my meeting, and then I'll contact Eric and Mark and let them know where we are with it, and we'll discuss a special meeting. Fair enough.
All right. Nothing further on item 4. We'll move on to new business item number 5, operating reserve status.
Well, we discussed the operating reserve status at the last meeting, and that's where we've left it. We had some discussion about operating reserves, that we actually have more reserves than the policy that the board established requires, well, basically it's just that. We can set on those reserves right now, or we can make some recommendation to the city council about what to do with those. I hate to use the word excess reserves because that's not really a good term. But for the reserves that we have in our fund that exceed the policy levels required. And I didn't know if the board wants to talk about that anymore, or for now,
Well, for me, the two things that would matter regarding those funds are, I know we made the list of the projects that got delayed from last year because of the anticipated low revenue, so expenses were cut. So looking at those in conjunction with 2015 capital improvements to see with manpower and expertise that we have, what we can or can't do, both physically and by dollars. And then that would segue into another look at our 5-year forecast and see where we are. Because we've talked about various projects, some of them are significant in the next couple of years, and we've talked about the rate decrease, and we've talked about a rebate, and all of those are potential possible, but without knowing where we're going to sit over a longer period, I wouldn't want to say do this, right? And then 2 years down the road we go, well, we're going to do a rate increase. I would rather have, not that I want to sit on funds that could go back to the people, but if it's going to be within a short time period, a year or two, hey, this project's going to come up, we're going to have to expense it anyway, there goes the excess, or basically short-term savings is what I'm looking at.
Right.
If it's going to be something that we're still looking pretty in the midterm type window, well then we might as well look back at rebates, or if there's anything else we've pushed out 10 years that could go in 5 years. Because I think to the people, their concerns are going to be service, reliability, and cost. And depending on who you talk to, the order may change, but it's those things. So we just have to find some happy medium for all of those.
Okay.
And the best that we can do is only make recommendations.
Right. Yeah, that's all we can.
But we discussed, we discussed it like a rebate or refund back to the customer. It's not a lot of money when you divide it by all the customers that we have.
Right.
So I'm not sure that totally makes sense. And I don't know how, since I believe the city is required to submit a balanced budget, you know, we can't submit a budget with the anticipation, well, gee, we'll just get into our reserves. I don't think that's allowable by state statute.
Because I think balancing their budget discussions will bring away to all that.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to make any recommendations.
That's what I was gonna say, I think we're getting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
The dollars are there, we all know that, so I think we need to.
Then you get through the budget.
Right, get through the budget and then make some strong recommendations for investment into infrastructure or what have you.
I agree with that. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
we still need to be doing our due diligence on this side, because once that ball starts going down the hill of budget, there's not a whole lot of things that change easily. So, I mean, we can't get to the end, you know, it's July, and say, hey, by the way, why don't we do this, this, and this? Well, who knows, depending on how they do their budget, if they're going to refactor this and move this and change that, and now that changes this number, and all of a sudden, nope, can't do it, that's a whole other year. Well, then, you know, we missed our window. So, anything we can do now that would be a recommendation, but
At least
Yeah.
operational.
operational wise.
Yeah, and the funds are totally in control of the city council now.
Right.
So, and I think that's what Lance was
Yep.
doing too.
Yeah, right.
You know, so,
Yeah, it's just recommendation.
yeah. Well, okay, let's take a look and see how the budget sets up, and we may, if we have a special meeting, we may come back and visit this again, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I think we need to make a priority to that recommendation so that council understands kind of the who, what, when, where, and why of what that recommendation is thereafter. Another big push is capital improvements, so I think we really need to look at it through that light versus rebates to individual or to customers as a whole. Not because the dollars aren't substantial, but just that would, I think, fall in line with kind of where the city's headed or trying to head.
Has staff pulled in electric to the capital improvement plan? Because when they did the presentation late last fall, electric was left out.
We have submitted our capital improvement projects to the city. That was the first step in the budget process.
So they're probably, I'm going to go out with an assumption here, pull that into their master
Yes.
CIP plan that they're talking about for this year.
Yes. That's my understanding.
Okay.
Any further questions or discussion on item 5? Hearing none, I guess we will move on to item number 6, miscellaneous.
I have a couple of things that are miscellaneous that I wanted to visit about. One is, for some time now, we've been talking about the need to install a standby generator at the senior center. The philosophy behind that is if we have a major ice storm, and there are particularly elderly people whose lights are out and they've got no place to go, the senior center has a kitchen, and if we could get the electric service back on there, then they could go in there and stay warm, and so this week, working with Brandon, we've selected a used pre-owned standby generator large enough to install at the senior center, and Brandon's ordered a transfer switch for that, and probably in the next 3 weeks we ought to get that installed.
What's our runtime on that?
It's got a 100-gallon, it's a diesel ready with a 100-gallon tank sitting underneath it in the belly
Right.
of it. We actually, what we did was we bought a used one that's trailer mounted, and we have need for the trailer. So we're going to remove the generator and install it on a base at the senior center, and they're going to utilize the trailer for separate use. So
it was actually budgeted for this year.
Yes.
In 2002, when we had the ice storm, we don't have a loop feed for the downtown business district, and part of one of our designs and capital improvement project is to get that loop feed put together. But the senior center was one of the areas that was utilized, and it was without power. You know, we had 85% of the town down during that major ice storm, and it's just a matter of time before it happens again. City Hall has backup generator now, the Energy Center, the distribution building, public safety. So the seniors building was another one that was identified at the time by the board and last year's budget as a building that felt that since they had a kitchen and that kind of stuff, that, you know, we could get the elderly in or people in to help out and assist during those times. But so Bill tasked me with getting that completed in April.
And I'd like to take a second and commend the board, because you've been very supportive of projects like the installation of a standby generator at the senior center. During the board's oversight, you know, we put in a standby generator at the Energy Center. We put one at the distribution building. We put one in at City Hall. We have a standby generator now at the North Water Tower for the pumps and for the repeater that we have on top of the water tower, and now we'll be putting in one at the senior center. And all of those projects were completed under the board's watch. And Brandon's right, it's just a matter of time. It's not whether it's going to happen again, it'll happen again.
Yeah,
So we're better positioned at this point in time for something like that.
Remember last year, we had 2 major snowstorms that shut the transmission line down and a couple of the circuits around town. We couldn't even operate on our truck radios because our repeater at the North Water Tower was down, so we had no communication even between our crews. So when David was on SCADA operations, we were having a hard time between trucks on the west side of town and communicating with SCADA operations on the east side of town. So until we get that repeater up and running, we really had a hard time talking last year. So that was one of the reasons for installing the one at the water tower. Thank God we didn't have a major problem this year like we did last year, but it was really difficult. So, and you know, we're not talking Gardner being a big town. It's just talking from one side to the other, and the truck radios won't go direct that far. So it's kind of had to put a group in the middle, and that guy had to relay to the other guy to relay to the SCADA operations, and we got guys working on de-energized lines, trying to energize them, and it becomes a real safety hazard. So.
Another thing that I wanted to mention was you probably know this will be my last meeting, or at least regular scheduled meeting. I'll be retiring this month. What you may not know is it's also going to be Brandon's last meeting. Brandon has resigned effective the 15th of this month, and he'll be taking the position of Westar Energy. So I want to certainly wish him well. Brandon has been an extremely valuable asset to Gardner Energy and the city. You know, his knowledge, his experience. He knows the city. He knows the system. He's just done a great job for us. And certainly, he's been a big help to me, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
One of the things I wanted to mention was that the rebuild out here on 56 going west is looking really good. I knew that you've been working on it for a while, but it's looking pretty clean and real nice.
Yeah, that was actually one of the circuits we had an issue with last winter that actually shut itself down when the wires were slamming into each other, and it's a main tie for us. So that was
also lost, we had a journeyman lineman / meterman resign a couple weeks ago. So at the present time, we do not have anyone with knowledge and experience for testing electric meters. And that's something that we're going to have to try to backfill for fairly quickly. Way back when the board was first developed, we talked about meter testing, and we actually, Brandon did most of the work, put together a meter testing program that emphasized commercial meters, but certainly the testing of the accuracy for all electric meters. And that's an annual program. Right now that has stopped till we're able to backfill for this position. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. Any of the board members?
I got several things.
Please.
Where are we at with the truck leases?
The truck leases are on the council's agenda for Monday night, this coming Monday night, the 7th of April.
Okay.
I've worked with city staff, and they've put together a council action form that hopefully will convince the council that they need to approve those leases. The clock is ticking on those two vehicles, and if they don't approve the leasing of those two vehicles, the end of August they're gone because the leases will run out.
Will we have representation at that meeting?
I will be there, Randy.
Yeah, that one, I don't understand why it's taking so long. You know, when we were still a board with authority, we approved those after we, done our due diligence. Then we became an advisory board, made a recommendation. You've done 2, 3 presentations?
No, I've done one presentation.
One presentation, but then you were solicited to get information out.
Yes.
Right, okay.
That's
So
correct.
you gave more information out. Then I know that it got tabled, or not tabled, but not put on the agenda for last month so that they could review it again. I guess I'm not sure what the delay is. It was approved once. The information was presented one time. It was presented informally through the spreadsheet going out with the lease information. That was talked about here again. I don't know what there is to discuss. It seems like it should be a rubber stamp at this point.
I think, Mark, the issue has been that the leases will not be signed until right before the trucks are delivered. They kind of coincide, and so we're asking the council to approve the leasing of 2 new vehicles, but the lease is not available for them. It's going to be identical to the leases that we use now, just with a different amount and different dates. So I think that the city administrator was working with the city attorney to try to figure out how to make that happen legally. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess, one, I'm surprised that Alltech won't give you a copy.
Well, we're trying to do it a year in advance.
Yeah.
They need 12 months to build these trucks.
Right, but if they're going to agree to a price, why can't they?
Well, the price, it's difficult to explain because the prices change depending on the market and stuff. So
how much it costs to build the actual truck?
Right, the truck, plus what the value of the truck is that they're getting back, because they don't know miles on it a year out. They don't know the condition of the truck a year out. So there's several variables in there that
Well, then that seems like we could get a best guess for a year out from Alltech.
and that's what they've given.
And
Right.
they've given us.
And then wouldn't city council be able to do something like we were just talking about? We authorize this with a few, we'll sign the actual lease in August, but we authorize you to put the lease in, and it can't exceed in August this price, right? That seems like you just guard against the future and you do it with the best information you have at the time, but you still got to get in the queue, otherwise you don't get a truck.
No, that's exactly right. Right now, the trucks are in the queue based on just a verbal commitment.
Probably lucky they're still there though.
Yes, but Alltech is starting to get a little nervous because they've got trucks that are going to be built specifically for our needs, based on the latest technology in the queue, and
nobody to fill those spots if something falls through or
Right.
So
They want a commitment that we're going to buy a truck.
yes,
We just need assurances it's not going to cost triple.
right.
I mean, it doesn't seem like rocket science.
But anyway, that's been the dilemma. That's been the issue we've been working on with city staff.
Okay. Do you remember, I'm going to say October, maybe September last year, there was a guy that came in and did a presentation, I can't remember from what group, on long-term wholesale contracts. And
it was late summer.
And we approved him to investigate and that we would potentially participate in the future. There was no firm commitment to anything. But I was wondering if that had ever came back around so that
Yeah, it's still,
they're still in the...
it's still delays, yeah. So
Okay.
there's nothing to move on that.
Okay, I was just curious where that was.
Along that same line, and I'll bring it up now, the wholesale contract that we have with OPPD, I don't think it expires until like 2018. Right now, I believe that's the right date. But we've had some preliminary discussions with OPPD to make some adjustments. In other words, a revision to the existing contract based on our needs, the way we get energy, and our load, what our load program looks like. Last fall, I had a conversation with Dave Peterson from OPPD, and he told me he would get back with me. They've got a nuclear unit, Calhoun, they were kind of waiting to see if they were even going to be able to bring that unit back up.
Right.
It's finally back.
Yeah, it was flooded for,
Yes.
what, 8 months?
Yeah, it was offline for the better part of 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been offline for a long
Yeah.
time.
So we need to resume those discussions. At that time, it was going to be Darren and Greg Wilson and myself to sit down and talk to them. They actually committed to me they'd get back with me, and they haven't done that yet.
I guess in all these other conversations that we've had, who's going to answer all these questions now? Because if this is any other company, we've lost all middle management, generation distribution is now gone, and we're losing our director, so effectively the top half of the company is gone. Your board of directors has no official power, so I'm not sure who are we going to get information from, on these type of details. I mean, who's going to present to us at the next meeting? For one, I mean, if you're not here, Brandon's not here, there's nobody to present. And furthermore, who's going to know the details of previous dealings with OPPD or, Portable Tree Service or Ashland or, any of these details, because we're losing a whole bunch of history and experience here. I'm not sure.
I don't have the answer for that.
Yeah, has there been any talk that city admin's going to come fill us in, or how this is going to work, or?
No.
I'm going to take an opportunity here, since it's my meeting,
It is your
to put Mary on the spot, if I might, since you are the senior representative from within City Hall here this evening. Do you have any knowledge of job search or any activity going on to fill Bill's position that you can fill us in on? Because it's a genuine concern for sure.
Well, and please understand that, you know, the city of Gardner owns the city utility and has the same concern. So it's not just this board that is concerned. Of course, to think that that city administration and the governing body is not out looking at options that are available is really, okay, I'll just pass on that. Yes, of course, options are being looked at, considered. In the interim, Brandon's resignation was just received a few days ago, so you know you have to have time to process that and work with it. I do know that our city administrator has been in conversations with the numerous people, organizations, options, and when the time is appropriate and she has information that is available and should be shared, it will be. And yes, it is a lot of knowledge that walks out the door, and you know, not to shortchange, but this is what we do. We run services, and we continue to look for quality people to run services. And individuals make decisions to retire. Our public works director retired. We lost our police chief in office. I mean, we've lost all senior management, and we continue to run the city, and that's what we'll do. We'll continue to run this utility. Will it be difficult sometimes? Of course. You know, anytime you lose great people and knowledge, it's not easy. But please don't sit there and think that city administration is sitting back and not concerned and not doing.
I don't think anybody up here implied that. That was not the point.
Yeah. I don't have the information to share because I have not been doing that, but I know there are conversations that are taking place and various options looked at.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You know, and to piggyback on what Mary said, and I agree that the tribal knowledge that we're losing, and Bill in particular, is priceless. The tribal knowledge that we're losing in Brandon is just as priceless. But I also think that this board, and I wouldn't include myself in this statement, because I'm the rookie, the newbie, with Lee not being here. That I think the five of us are charged with trying to support the city through the tribal knowledge that we have collectively. I mean, Lance is an example, has great networking opportunities that we could perhaps leverage and support through recommendation to our city administrator and even our mayor for that fact. But I think it really provides us an opportunity to step up as advisory board to keep an eye on the ball, to continue to keep our customers as our #1 priority, and to share that tribal knowledge that we have and support during this transition. But could we replace the Bill and Brandons of the world? I don't think we could. But I think that we could support the city and the service that we provide through the tribal knowledge that we have collectively.
No, I'm with you there, and thanks for filling us in, Mary. No, I think the city will be fine, and Mary's right. You know, there's time, and that has to be things have to be worked out. And Randy, you're correct. I guess I'm just, since we're gonna be in this limbo state. I'm wondering who our point of contact is going to be, because currently it is Bill. So in the meantime, the board doesn't have a direct connection through an official channel. I mean, yeah, we can talk to every council member and every staff member we want individually, but as a board, we have now lost our point of contact to the city.
And I want to speak for myself, and I'm sure I speak for Bill too. And when I turned in my resignation, and Mary's got a copy of the letter, I've offered if there's anything I can do in this transition period. So that means even when I leave here, Gardner's dear to my heart. Okay, I grew up here, graduated here, I've worked here, I've got 14 years invested in this place. I don't want to walk away from here just, you know, I'm done. I mean, they're more than welcome to call me. I'm sure they're more than welcome to call Bill. We'll make the transition as easy as we can for Mary and, you know, everybody else. You know, the knowledge is still there. I've offered it up to my crew and Bill, and I offered it up to Mary if she needs to call me. I mean, you know, we're not doing it in spite. I came up with a better opportunity. I know Bill's leaving for retirement, so I mean, I'm sorry for the way things are happening, but you know, I'm still going to be available. I mean, if somebody needs to call me, so I wouldn't do that to anybody that I was leaving. So I think I have enough respect for Mary, and hopefully vice versa, that you know, she can feel free to call me, or Bill can call me, or you know, any one of you can call and ask a question, and I'd be more than happy to answer it. But I would rather have that relationship with the city than going a different route. So.
Well, I think we are to ask Bill in his meeting next week with the city administrator to maybe add that to the agenda. I know they're talking about the finances of it, but maybe ask that in the agenda, or that opportunity. Hey, who does the advisory board need to look to as a point of contact, a single point of contact, whether that's, you know, obviously not an elected official, but who on staff do we need to rally around and support to continue the great services that we have here? I think that might, you know, help us out, to Mark's point, to understand where we need to go and who we need to look to. Would you agree, Bill?
Yeah, I agree.
Based on Mary's conversation, I would think the city administrator will reveal something.
Yeah, actually, thank you. I wanted to add that Bill's here for a few more weeks, and of course, before your point of contact leads, number one would be who are the people that you would expect to get information from? How will that work? Those plans take a little time, but of course, we would make sure that you have that information and not just kind of hung out there. But until it's all packaged together, you know, I don't have that information to provide. But this board's very important, and the knowledge that sits on this board is very important. And Randy, I appreciate your comment about, you know, this is our opportunity that we all work together to better and continue the great service that this division of our city has provided to the citizens, and that's what it's all about, is the continual service to our citizens. That's what we'll focus on.
So is that why you came tonight, Mary?
Well, I figured you had questions,
Okay.
and while I may not have all the answers, I wanted you to walk away with some assurances that, you know, work is being done, and that we're all very concerned, and this is a critical unit for our city, and that everybody is working very diligently to make sure that the pieces are put in place that will support the electric department and continue services to our citizens.
We appreciate your attendance. President? Mark's done?
Okay. All right, well, I do have a couple items before we adjourn here. First of all, I would like to take the opportunity to extend my personal thanks and the thanks of the board. I hope I can speak for everybody on the board here in thanking both Bill and Brandon for the outstanding work that you've done on behalf of Gardner Energy and on behalf of the citizens of this community. You will be sorely missed, I have no doubt. We will find ways to move on, as Mary said. I'm sure the lights will stay on, and we will proceed on, but you will be missed. And it's been a pleasure working with both of you over the last 4 years that I've been on this board, and longer for some of you. And
I think I'm the only one longer than you.
well, yeah, well, could be. I guess that's true. I guess that's true.
I'm the only original one left.
You know, hopefully, you certainly wish Phil the best in his retirement. Hopefully, lots more time to visit grandkids.
That's the plan.
Colorado.
And that too.
And in Colorado. And Brandon, we'll miss you as you head off to Pete Ice. But glad that obviously you hold Gardner dear, and certainly hope that neither of you is a stranger. Hopefully that we hear from you or see you every once in a while at least. So appreciate that. Last thing I will share is the fact that I will be tendering my resignation to Mayor Morrow. I expected to see him here tonight, I guess maybe falsely so. I will speak with him and ask him when he would like me to make it effective. If I need to stick around for this special work session or meeting that we're having, potentially to discuss the budget, I'm willing to do that. But I've given this quite a bit of thought, and it's not been an easy decision, especially given some of the key departures that we've had recently. But I've recently signed a contract to build a house and move outside the city limits, in which case I would be forced to resign anyway. Further, it's become increasingly frustrating that what we come here to do on a monthly basis and the time that we give increasingly is being diminished in value by what's going on and what's taken place over the last several months within this city hall. And frankly, I've got too many things going on with a new house to build, a very intensive job, children that are going to be graduating high school soon. I've simply got too many pulls at my time to come here and spend my meals. I have been serving the city for the last 11 years, almost 4 on this board. I have enjoyed every moment of it. The camaraderie that we've had on this board and with the staff of Gardner Energy, and the work and the accomplishments that we've been able to achieve together. I genuinely mean that. It's been a fantastic thing to be a part of, but after some pretty significant soul searching for about the last 6 weeks, I think it's time for me to move on. So I appreciate you all, and know that you will continue to do great things after that. With that, are there any further comments or discussions? If not, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Lance, that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
It's every other, by the way. Oh.